Hello, I'm Dr. James Bogash. I'm the owner of Life Care Chiropractic and the publisher of the Modern Health Myths blog. Today we're going to talk briefly about bone mineral density testing, our bone density testing, and how we use it in our office. I've had what's called a PDEXA, peripheral DEXA unit for over a decade now, looking at the density of your wrist, which is non-weight bearing. I feel that this is one of the best ways to look at bone density because it's not tricked by how much weight or exercise or anything you may be doing. It really becomes a marker of how healthy we are and how healthy our bones are. That becomes incredibly important because we know that bone density is really a marker for how healthy we are. We used to think that bones were this inert tissue that we attached the muscles to, and it kept us upright, kept us from being this blob on the bottom of the ground. But we realize now that gut or the bone is a very dynamic tissue. It interacts with the gut. So poor gut health, certain medications like SSRIs or acid blocking drugs will affect bone health negatively. When we have poor bone health, we now are at increased risk of diabetes, which is crazy. 15 years ago, we never would have thought that those relationships even existed. So when it comes to bone density, the problem is we usually check people when they're in their 50s or 60s, and by that time, if there's a problem, it's usually at the crisis stage. I am a strong advocate of checking bone mineral density much earlier in your 20s or 30s. We have two scores that we usually look at when we're checking bone density. That's the T-score and the Z-score. The T-score is gender and race matched, but it's always compared to somebody of a standard age. So let's say a 40-year-old female. So if you're a 50-year-old female, you are being compared to a 40-year-old female, and she never gets older. So as we age, everybody will become osteoporotic with enough time because the standard that you're comparing it against never ages. Z-score, on the other hand, is a age, race, and gender matched. So if you are a 25-year-old female, you are matched against the 25-year-old female. Same thing with an 80-year-old female. So if we have an 80-year-old female with a T-score that suggests maybe she's got osteoporosis, but her Z-score suggests that she's right on for her age, race, and gender, it becomes less of a concern. The concern is when we have a 25-year-old whose Z-score is 10 or 15% below what it should be for their age. That's a really big problem because fast forward 20 or 30 years when we now check bone density for the first time, then it's now a crisis stage where something simple like vitamin D or increasing weight-bearing exercise at 25 will fix that. That's one of the reasons why I remain a very strong advocate for bone density testing at an earlier age and why we do this testing on a regular basis at the office for a very reasonable cost, especially for the value that we get from that testing.